Hello, everybody. Hello today. My name is Joshua, the founder and director of El Terreno Cultural Exchange Center out here in rural Ecuador. Great to have so many of you with us today, joining us here for this final presentation of Hope and Maddy, who have been two architecture students who have been joining us over this summer to work on some design projects, as well as getting their hands dirty on some natural building techniques. I'm really looking forward to this presentation because I saw the results, but I didn't actually get to see so much behind the curtain of how they went through their process, and I'm really intrigued to see how that process went. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to you guys to share us your presentation.
Okay, I will share my screen. Okay, I hope everyone can see the screen. All right.
Yes.
Okay. So hello everyone. My name is Hope, and this summer I was interning with El Terreno in Ecuador, working on different rural architectural design projects. So I was working with Maddy, and so we're basically going to be going through this presentation together. She does like one section, I do one section, because we basically worked on everything together. And so yeah. Yeah, so a little bit more about me. I was born and raised in Uganda, and I'm currently studying architectural studies and environmental studies at Connecticut College in the US. I've always been interested in traditional architecture and sustainable building. Just growing up in Uganda and kind of I feel like we miss out on our own architectural identity because everything that you see is modeled after something else from the West. And so early on in life, I just decided to learn more about our culture and our traditional architecture. And ever since joining university, I've had the opportunity to do that for so many other countries, including Ecuador. And so my motivation for going to Ecuador was to learn more about traditional architecture. And I'm also studying Spanish at university. So I just thought it would like improve my language as well.
Hi everyone, I'm Madeline Metzler. I'm from the United States. I'm currently getting a BArch at New York Institute of Technology. So I'm getting a technology and sustainability degree, which is partially why I wanted to come here, but also so I could actually do some building and construction and design without, having graduated and have some real control over what I'm working on and also help a community and, figure out where I want to go after. I really love South America. And so this was a very um inspirational summer for me.
All right, so this is just basically what we're going to go through today. So before we actually started on the projects, we did like a bunch of tours to find different projects. So we went out into the community and got to know more about the people, the architecture, and then we finally decided on three projects, Samanawasi, Maria's Cabin, and continued work on Gina's House, which is a project that so many interns have worked on, I feel like since the beginning of El Terreno, and then just take you through some like workshops and tours that we did that helped to like improve our skills as architects, and also just like some final reflections about the work that we did. So, Maddie, do you want to go through the finding the project section?
Sure. I actually don't remember which one this is a photo of. Oh, so basically in the beginning, we kind of spent a week or two just walking around this area and looking at there's a lot of abandoned homes and abandoned old traditional architecture buildings around here that people have just kind of not wanted to fix or not had the time or the money or the ability to fix and then renovate and live in. So we had a lot of different options, one of which being Daisy's family, which is um, a bit down the road and right by a river. So they have a flour mill as well. And they, like many of the other ones, just want to remodel it to be a home for the rest of their family. We did not choose this one. So mainly because it would have been like a bit more like a bigger undertaking and it wouldn't have been a smart move for the foundation.
And then we have Maria's house. So Maria is like the neighbor of El Terreno, so she's just right at the back. And in their family homestay, they have about three different, four different structures, and one of them is this house. So it's made of tapial, and tapial is a very common building material in traditional architecture, especially in the Sierra. So tapial is usually a mixture of soil, horse poop, straw, and then different things that sometimes people add if they want to add like rocks, if they want to add limestone, they add that as well. So it's a very common building material, and this building is approximately 80 years old. A lot of these houses last like a very, very long time. They do get dilapidated, they get in bad condition sometimes, but most of the time, the structure itself lasts for a really long time. So it belongs to Maria and her family, and right now it houses guinea pigs, which are a very popular food and just pet to have in Ecuador. And so when we visited Maria, her like the idea was to remodel this house to become a single bedroom cabin for tourists so that it could provide income for the family. And this is one of the projects we chose to pursue.
So this is another one that we didn't end up choosing, but really, really wish we could have, because it's an old hacienda, which is so when the Spanish came here, they kind of like took over a bunch of land and built, fancy homes for people from Spain coming here to live, and this is one of those that was like abandoned for a while, and then I guess historically in the what 60s or 70s there was like an initiative to give people from Ecuador their land back. So this was given back to a local family, but they haven't done anything with it because it's quite a big undertaking. It's a very big house, actually. Um, so we really wish we could have gotten to work on this one, but it also would have been too much for the summer.
Mm. And then the last project wasn't a renovation project, actually. It was just like a piece of land. So, Señor Ernesto is the coordinator of the Centro de Desarrollo Infantil in Atandawa. And that's basically like a nursery where people bring their children while they go to work. So, he directs that. And he has partnered with El Terreno on like different projects, the water project, nutrition project. So, he has that kind of like close relationship with the project itself. And he brought to us this idea of developing his land into something like a tourist project. So him and his wife have land totaling about 99 hectares in the hills of Guaranda. Guaranda is the city that's really close to Atandawa, and it's the capital of the Bolivar province. And so their dream is to develop this land into a tourism project with cabins, like single cabins for maybe an individual or a couple, and dorms as well for tourists. And the biggest attraction in this area is the view of like the different areas around it, including Guaranda, the city Chimborazo, which is the tallest mountain in Ecuador, and Riobamba. If you go further up the hill, you're able to see that. And that's another city in a different province. And that was one of the projects that we chose to pursue. So yeah, now getting into the project and like the work that we did. Samanawasi, Maddy, you can take over for this section.
So this is what Ernesto decided the name of this project will be, Samanawasi. Um, it's Quechua, right? I don't exactly remember what it means.
Mm-hmm.
Do you
Oh,
remember what it
House
means?
of Rest. It's like
House of
House of
Rest.
Rest. Mm-hmm.
So that's the first, I mean, I guess it's the first project we're going to go through. Oh, you have that on here.
Mhm.
And really, I guess we kind of like talked about it. I mean, their dream, is to have a tourism spot, but also to build a home for themselves in this spot as well, because they love the view. They love like um, how like secluded, yet you can see like everything from it. It's a very cool spot where, like the clouds are basically like around you half the time. Um, and there's also like hiking trails, I believe, around. So like it could definitely be like a nice like halfway up the mountain kind of spot. So Simonowasi is definitely a good name for it. But in the beginning, we kind of just looked at other similar projects like in the area. If you go to the page before that, there was one of the ones that we looked at. So the two photos in the middle are a cabin project in the Andes of Ecuador that is quite similar in terms of materiality and function to what they wanted. So we were actually able to speak to the architects that designed this project and get a bit of like insight on, like their process, like the issues they had, like what the best, parts about it were. And kind of, I feel like what we learned was that the best parts was like its connection to the community and using traditional building methods and like really highlighting like the Andean, like not like aesthetic, but the Andean style of building was what they like appreciated most about this project. So that's kind of like what like the biggest thing that we took away, as well as how they built like into a hill, which is obviously what we were also tasked with. You can go next.
So yeah, this is basically the site and the location of one of the spots that Ernesto wanted to put the house in. So this part here, this is the city of Guaranda, and then just a few kilometers off, you have where we situated one of the first houses for this project. Yeah. And so
These
these
were
were
some
some of
other
like, oh, sorry.
projects. No, you can go. It's okay.
Okay, so these are some of the other projects that we looked at. Chacrandina is a bioarchitecture project very close to where we were. It's about 2 hours away in the Chimborazo province, and they basically use a lot of biomaterials for their construction. They use adobe, they use wood, straw, and they have some very, very nice houses. They're very warm inside. They have bathrooms, they have biodigesters, and it's a really, really great project. And then the other projects as well, all of them are in Ecuador. The last one is in the Amazon region. So instead of maybe things like adobe and wood, they use like bamboo, which is more commonly found in the Amazon region. And then from these presidents, we kind of came up with design specifications, things that we wanted to include in the house. And then we talked to Ernesto about it. And he also added a few things that he wanted to include. And so these are just like the design specifications and everything that we came up with as we started the design process.
So, we obviously started with like sketching some ideas out. I think we kept it like very simple for like the solo cabin, trying to keep like the square footage as small as possible, just to make sure like not too much site intervention as well as cost. All of those things like add up. So that was very simple. And then we went through like a bit more like design process with like the main one kind of going back and forth between like how much of a reception, like what kind of like dorms are we thinking, like real dorms or like bedrooms or like outside space. So we kind of like did a lot more workshopping with that one. As you can see, there's like a program organization where we like decided, like dorms are more, or the entry is more like top of the hill, like entry. So it's like has the least amount of view, and then like it gets more singular as you move down the hill or more secluded. So it goes from like reception to dining and kitchen to like more living room and separated spaces to outside. And then dorms always on, the second floor. So it's kind of like how we approach it, as well as chimneys. A chimney is like kind of like a not a staple, but definitely like something reminiscent of Andean homes to have, like a chimney in the center of your home as it's like it gets cold. And it also being like kind of like a center like communion piece. And then like just thinking, oh, did you want to talk about that?
I don't know, go ahead.
I could do it quick. So then we also had to think about how we're going to approach the hill as it is like for a lot of it around a 45-degree angle, which is quite steep. And then to try to fit a parking lot, accessible paths, a spot for camping, as well as like leveled areas for cabins, just to make things a bit easier. So we kind of decided like there's like an adjacent road next to the hill. So then we were like, okay, let's put parking on the back side of the hill, no view. So then it doesn't obstruct anything else. As you come up over the hill, camping all the way on top, as that's like the least invasive piece like of the project. And then like as you come down, thinking like main cabin a bit further up, midway down the hill off to the side, so you have unobstructed views, as well as it's a bit sunken in, so it's still secluded in that way. And then a bit further down the hill, solo cabins could be scattered. There's just one in the project at the moment, but for the future, I think that if this happens, they would probably want to just duplicate that one a bit, as like there's enough space to kind of like have everything be a bit secluded, especially when you are leveling it into a hill, things feel a bit more like private and don't block the view of each other. So continue.
Yeah, and so basically that's everything that Maddie said, but like now we have the site plan. Um, so this is the road that you use. So as you go up, it gets higher and higher. And so you come from the city, from Guaranda, and we basically have a path, a walking path, as well as the path for the cars. So this is the parking. Then we have the main cabin. And then we have the smaller cabins that kind of will surround the main cabin. And so it's quite high. I think it's like it goes from like maybe 2,600, then like all the way up to 3,000 feet or more. And so
Meters.
it was, oh, meters, sorry. Yes. So it was really important that we kind of thought about how like everything is going to progress down the hill and also like up the hill. And yeah.
We were able to, or sorry, go back 1 second. We were able to integrate that, like the winding path to be like ADA accessible. So I was thinking like around the opposite side could be a walking path that's like on top of the hill. And then on the side that's more like tree adjacent and closer to the road, be like dug in a bit and accessible for people who have a hard time, like, actually like hiking over this very big hill from the parking lot. So yeah, that's the only thing I want to add.
Mhm. Yeah, this is a 3D rendering of the site. Thank you so much to Maddie for creating such amazing visuals.
Uh,
Um, yeah. And then we have the floor plan. So we definitely went through like different versions of it, but this final one I think is it's compact, but it also has so many unique features that um like express like the traditional architecture, but also like incorporate themselves so well into the actual physical site. So basically here is where we have the entrance and then you have the reception. And then we have communal bathrooms here, which one of them is ADA accessible. So with somebody with a wheelchair will be able to like access these spaces. And then we kind of divided it into three parts. So you have this part, and this part. And so basically, this is kind of like the intro, the reception area. And then you go down into the more communal spaces. So we have a dining hall and a kitchen, and then you go further down, and then you have a living room. And I think one of the things we really wanted to do was to fit the project within the site, so to have those step downs. But then we met with the tourism board of Guaranda, and they told us that obviously you have to make things accessible, which we hadn't really seen a lot of in the homes that we toured, but obviously we want to make our project different. So we decided to add ramps also on the side, which make this like the leveling and the stepping down accessible for anyone with a wheelchair. And yeah, and then you have the views, the windows facing both this side. On this side, you have the view to Guaranda, and then on the other side, you have the beautiful view of the hills. So, and then you go upstairs here, and we have the dormitories, we have a public bathroom, as well as an individual room for somebody who doesn't want to share with other people. And then this circular thing is the chimney, which basically goes like all the way through the house. Um, yeah. Anything about the section?
Oh, yeah. So basically, I mean, you can see from the plan, it steps down a bit. You know, you have a chimney in the center. And what I really like about this, and I feel like Hope really was part of this, is separating the spaces. In the first section, there's the ramp part, somebody like in a wheelchair. So it's like, enough space. I feel like I like this concept because everything is like nicely separated yet connected. So like the three areas are separated by like half walls. So it's like a step down and a half wall, and it creates, I feel like, a really nice like separation, yet there can be a bunch of people in there and it maybe not feel that way. We also were able to have space for laundry and like multiple showers and bathrooms in a pretty small like footprint. So I think we're really happy about that, and I think Ernesto is as well. But yeah.
Okay. We'll go a little bit faster on the next few slides, but this is like a 3D rendering again of the main cabin. Thank you, Mandy, so much for the renderings because I feel like they bring everything to life. Yeah, and then we also have the cabins, like the smaller cabins as well. Yeah, so this is basically like for like one person or two people, you have a small living room area, you have a chimney, you have a bathroom and a small kitchenette. And then you go upstairs and then you have like a loft. That's basically has like a bed. And so it's very small, very compact. And I think, yeah, I really, really love this design because yeah, it's very cozy and comfortable.
Yeah, what I love about this one too is like you're able to put the loft just over like the bathroom and kitchen spaces, leaving like the living room like a bit more like open while like compacting, the other spaces. And I think it creates like a really nice like ambiance, we could say, while it being very small. So
Amazing. Yeah, and then Maddie, you can definitely walk through this one.
again, same vibe. You have a straw roof, very traditional, and the closest texture I could get to adobe walls. Yeah. And then like construction details. What we were kind of thinking was like a wood frame with straw like between for insulation, adobe on the outside to just enclose everything, and then wood siding on the inside instead of another kind of adobe or something, to just like keep everything very compact and also a bit like traditional without being like too much having to mix Adobe and all of that, like a lot of manual stuff. And then for the roof, we really wanted to do a straw roof, even though it's not the most like economical. I mean, it is if you can source all of the straw, but it is like a bit more labor intensive, but it is very traditional and like we really wanted to like keep these things alive. Like we didn't really want to just be like, oh, let's do, like tile, like plastic tiles are a lot of what they're doing now, as then it kind of like defeats the purpose of like the tourism project in our opinion. So we're thinking like a light frame, like a light kind of wood tied together with string, but they usually use like a kind of like plant material string, so like all very traditional, like a light wood, like maybe eucalyptus or bamboo, and then under that, obviously, like the beams from the actual like structure of the building, and then on top, bundles that you can see in like this circle section are like stacked. There's like a lower bundle and an upper bundle, and they're like tied together as well as tied to the frame. So it creates a very like water resistant and like um was that a thermal, a comfortable thermal like effect. So we'll go with that.
Yep. And then moving on to the second project, we did a cabin for Maria. So as I said before, Maria lives just behind the El Terreno property. And so our objective for this project was to transform the adobe house into accommodation for a tourist to support Maria and her family. And then it will be like a very small home, very modular, kind of like the cabins that we did for Ernesto, because it's already like a very small and tight space. So we just wanted to use like the space we had. So yeah, this was like the existing condition, like how the house or how the space looks like right now. There are a few structures already surrounding the adobe house. And then the external walls did have a bit of water damage, so that's something that we had to think about. The roof was very old. And then the family didn't want to get rid of any of the structures surrounding the house. So we had to make sure our design basically left the site as it was, but added all of the things that were necessary um, for it. And okay, I'll talk about this and then you can go through the actual design. So basically, for the preliminary design, we obviously wanted, there were a lot of things that were missing in the original house. There was no bathroom, there was no like water collection system, the roof was very old. So there was a lot that we needed to add. And so for this preliminary design, what we did was think about how we can, oh, there were no windows as well, so no light coming in whatsoever. So this design is basically about maximizing light, adding as much light as possible, and then also adding water collection system so that it doesn't, like the walls and the roof don't get further damaged. And then also just like fitting in a bathroom, and yeah, enough and two levels inside the space as well.
Wait, do you want me to talk now? Or do you want me to
Yep.
talk in the next slide? Oh, okay. So we kind of like started with just trying to like fit a bathroom, and at first we kind of like uh, nudged it over on the left existing building, and they were like, oh, we don't want to take that down. People, use that. So then we're like, okay, there's just enough space behind it, in front of this like dirt hill that's kind of like back there. That's like I believe a property marker, because that's like the end of their property. So we kind of just like don't know what you call that, but just a square in the corner for to create like a bathroom, and we were able then with the bathroom off there in the existing footprint to fit a living room with a table and a small cooktop and counter along the back wall. And in doing so, we were to add windows and stuff. We decided we need to take down like a good bit of the wall, basically like up to where the existing horizontal beams are, as those were pretty didn't seem to have any damage, and like also create a fine um level separation to then be the base for the second floor or loft. So we decided to keep that, and then our idea is to just build up from there, allowing like a not complete ring of windows, but along each face, a small, window, and then raise the roof a bit, and in the roof add a kind of like dome, like a domer, but in the center to add more, like allow more light to come in as well. So that's kind of the roof structure, and hopefully would be able to, as there's like a lot of wood that was used in this project already, we're hoping like we'll be able to reuse, like a good bit of what's taken down from like the roof studs and, like the columns that are currently on the existing horizontal beams that are holding up the current roof. I think that's it. I don't know.
Yeah. And so
And
basically
it's just
that's
kind of
kind of
like,
like,
it's okay.
yeah, so existing and then proposed design. And then another thing that we added, at the beginning of the presentation, I did say that Maria has guinea pigs inside the current house, and she's very fond of them. So she didn't want to move them out of the house. So part of this project is creating a guinea pig house, so that Maria will want to transform the other house into a tourist cabin. And so the structure will allow like for the relocation of the guinea pigs, and it uses very basic, very affordable materials. And the location will be a bit further down the hill towards like the crops, like the plants that they grow. And yeah, Maddie basically developed this design for the guinea pig house, which I think is really great.
Yes, traditionally you want it, off the ground so the other animals can't get to them. But yeah, very simple. They were very adamant about that though. Need a
Mhm.
house for the guinea pigs.
Yeah, and then the final project was Gina's house. So Gina's house is a project that I said before, so many interns have worked on. And so basically our job was just to try as to complete it as much as we could this summer. And yeah, so our clients were our Gina. So Gina and her family live a little bit down the hill from El Terreno, but still in the same area. And kind of the goal and the vision for El Terreno as an organization is to make migration a choice, not a necessity. So Gina, who is in the middle here, migrated to the US to find work. And that's basically a very common story for the people in Atandawa. A lot of the young people leave so that they can find work. And so basically, building these tourist projects is very essential to providing work for the youth in the area. And so basically, this house, once it's completed, will be accommodation for tourists, and Gina and her family will be able to manage it, so that Gina can like come home and have something to do back at home. So yeah, so it's basically an Adobe house with some of the materials that we've been talking about throughout this presentation: Adobe, straw, horse poop, limestone, all natural materials. And yeah, so this summer was just we were just trying to finalize everything. And Maddie, you can talk about like what we finalized and kind of like the existing condition and what it is right now.
Yeah, so I think this photo is how we found it, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
At least like a good bit. So one of the first things we did were workshops with one of the local mentors he's from Riobamba, I think, who does mainly like bioconstruction work. So he was able to come show us how to make, an Adobe mix, show us how to apply it. So in the first few weeks we were able to finish the exterior walls, like the outside, in terms of like where it's like kind of breaking off. So you kind of like go and you knock on it and you see, where it's like a bit weak, and then you pull that part out, and then you just throw the mud at the wall until it's smooth. Um, so that was like really fun to get to learn how to do. And then after we did that, what did we do? Then we did the wood, right? We
Mhm.
did the wood. So then a lot of the floor on the ground floor is like quite old, so we were able to, oh yeah, see here's us fixing the walls. It was quite fun actually. And we actually had like a lot of help in the beginning. We had another intern that was with us, who who was definitely like integral in making some of the mixes. It's hard to make a lot of this stuff with just two people. So when we had to do it later on the second time to fix a few of the holes, like it took us a while. We were able to do it, but it was definitely nice in the beginning. Um, yeah, after we fixed all of the holes on the outside, we started with the inside and protect it. Anything it's also like for bugs, maybe some other stuff like that. Just like a routine like treatment for all of the wood, old and new, which made it all like come together like pretty nicely, as well as the porch. We treated that wood too, and it definitely like made a big difference in like looking like it's like coming together. Um, yeah, and then the other intern worked on the design for the kitchen, which isn't currently built. That's actually where we were like making all of our mixes, as it's like outside but covered. So that's like I think like further steps. Um, yeah, after that we then made paint for the inside to finish off some of like it's like a bit patchy, and there was some imperfections from when we treated the wood. Like the oil kind of got on the walls and like seeped in a bit, so we were able to make like a natural paint with like flour and like milk and all of that good stuff to make like a paint that's going to sit all on the adobe walls better than say an industrial paint would. As we You can kind of see in that exterior photo, we like chipped off a bunch of paint and all of it just came off in sheets, as it wasn't really like made for like earth walls like that. So that was also really cool to like learn how to do. We like tested different pigments, and after we painted the inside white, it looked very nice, in my opinion. So you can go next.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, this is like the final interior. So it's a really nice house. I'm hoping that once it gets finished, they'll take professional photos so that if any of you ever want to visit Ecuador, like this is where you stay. So yeah, you can see the wood is done, the paint is done. And so it's really starting to come together. And I think the next step would be to add furniture and then, do the
Mhm.
exterior. And then we explored some of the paint options for the exterior. And I think we decided on like a bit of an off-white. And so I think the current interns, because there's new architectural interns, will be working on making that paint mix and doing the exterior. Um, yeah, and then also parts of the program was doing some workshops and tours. So if we weren't doing work on our laptop or working at Gina's house, we were doing tours, we were doing different workshops to learn like how to do like to build traditionally. So as Maddie said before, we did the Adobe mix. This is us like stepping in the mix. Well, this is Maddie stepping in the mix and like mixing it around. And yeah, and then we also learned how to make Adobe bricks, which are just earth bricks. We also learned how
Wait,
to
go to
make
the next
natural
slide.
paint.
Okay.
Oh wait, this one? Oh yeah.
It's like the slide is like lagging.
Oh, sorry. I hope everyone is able to see like the workshops and tour slides now. Okay. So yeah, we used using materials like limestone, earth, cactus water, milk, calcium carbonate. We made the interior paint. This is a test that we did to see like how the different mixtures would look like on Adobe walls. And then we did so many tours of different architectural projects. Las Cochas is a project in Salinas. No, sorry, it's in Guaranda, like pretty close. to Guaranda, and it's also like a tourist project. And then we visited a permaculture project in Salinas, as well as the bio architecture project of Chakra Andina, and they were very inspirational. A lot of our influences came from that. Like this house is Chakra Andina, and as you can see, they also have that little skylight, and that's where the idea for the skylight in Maria's house came from. And so, yeah, it was really great to just experience all of these different projects, see them, and yeah. Yeah, so that's the end of our presentation. We want to say thank yous to our mentors, architect Fernando Cano, who was our mentor for Gina's cabin and Maria's cabin. He also taught us how to make all the different mixes, natural paints, basically everything from scratch. He's a very, very intelligent person. And if you ever want to know more about bioconstruction, he's definitely someone I would go to. And then architect Cesar Escudero Solis. He's also an architect in Guaranda, and he was our mentor for the Samanawasi. Uh, Also, thank you to all of our clients who are so welcoming and so open to allowing us to work on their houses. Antoine, who's not here, but he was another architecture intern who, as Maddie said, was very integral to making the mixes. And also, thank you to Joshua for trusting us to just kind of do whatever we thought was best and for introducing us to all the amazing people that we met. Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for sharing your presentation. It was really kind of clear, thought through, and very, you explained the process really well. So fantastic, great work. So we're going to hand over and start to go towards questions and answers. So please, if you've got any questions, feel free to write them in the chat, or even better, put your hand up, and we would love to hear from you. You can hear in the background where I am. The building hasn't stopped. And while people decide on any questions they'd like to ask, I've got a couple myself. I think the biggest question that sticks with me, and I kind of feel this for a lot of the interns who come, that you come here to learn about bioconstruction, and there's lots of benefits to using bioconstruction. There's also some drawbacks. So what do you guys think are the things that you've learned that you could take back into the real world? And what are the other things that are limitations? And maybe they're practical limitations, and maybe they're regulatory limitations that are more difficult to apply.
Mm, mm. Okay, I can go first. So I think one thing that I really appreciate about Ecuadorian architecture, traditional architecture, bioarchitecture, is that it's very in tune with its environment. So all of the projects we worked with, um, none of them felt like they were out of place. Like they fit in so well to their environment. And I really, really appreciate that. So I think that that's a component that I would love to bring into my work as an architect, making buildings that make sense in their environment, like using the materials from the site, using the techniques from the community, and engaging very much with the community. And then something I think that's limiting, I think for traditional architecture is that it takes a very long time. So in Ecuador, usually traditional houses are made in a minga. So a minga is basically where you call your neighbors, you call your friends, and you basically make all of the materials together and then you build the house. And we did something kind of like a minga, but it does take quite some time. And I think that's the biggest drawback of traditional architecture. It's not as efficient as modern. And so that can be very limiting and it discourages a lot of people from building traditionally.
Thank you. Maddie?
Yeah, I think that that's all very well said. I think it's been very interesting for me coming from I've been studying in New York City to rural Ecuador to kind of see how things happen here. And I think that it's a really beautiful thing to be a part of a process where we're trying to reignite the purpose behind traditional building and remind people that, like, one, this is your culture, but two, this is, more efficient thermally, going to last longer, and further, like, reflects and respects the environment. So I think, like, for me, it's going to be quite difficult to even really like carry any of this over. But I think like in theory or in, like spirit, I will. As I think that this is definitely like an end goal for me in a way, is to be somewhere where like this is really like the purpose and the point, not to just to keep pushing for modernity, but to kind of like look back and be like, we were comfortable, a very long time ago with no electricity and no whatever. So how did we, and why are we not? Um, so I think it's very inspiring to be here, and for all those reasons, I hope to be able to bring a lot of it back.
Thank you very much. Sarah, over to you.
So Joshua, you asked my question, but I will follow up on that one. Ask this. For some of the materials, making, I think the Adobe horse poop, how easy is it to find some of, or to accumulate enough of the poop or whatever, the local materials to make those products? The other question is, so given what you learned, what Hope and Madeleine learned there, how do you think that translates to other places? How do you plan to propagate the information, the lessons that you learned, both beyond what is applicable in Ecuador?
So I think here especially, it wasn't hard to source things because basically everybody has livestock. Basically everybody has, or at least like access to something of the sort. Most of the material like was able to be sourced for us like by the families. So I think there's like a pretty strong, which is also why this is very much like a cultural and like traditional thing, because this is agriculture and livestock and all this is very much like the culture here. So I think on that front, like it wasn't very difficult to have access to those things. I think anytime we needed like poop, it was like already dried in a bag for us. So that was like actually not much of an issue. Um, and to just quickly be like how it's going to translate, I think like after doing this, it will make it so any other project you approach will be kind of like from this lens of like, where am I? Who are you? What are we doing and what's here? And like, how do we use that to go somewhere? So,
Thank you, Madeline. Yeah, maybe just to add to that, I mean, the whole concept of bioconstruction and vernacular building is using the materials that are around. So if you don't have enough horse poop, you don't use horse poop and you can use something else instead. So it's about, yeah, researching what you have around you and adapting to that. Okay, we've got another 2 minutes. I'll pass over to Deborah.
Yes, a great job, both of you. Very good work done. My question stems from climate. So it's true that this is traditional housing, and the people of Ecuador have probably gotten used to being so high up the altitude. But when you're talking about tourism, I'm just wondering, one, about heating, and two, about the straw roofs. I think which one was it, project 1 or 2? Because I'm not thinking about wind, because true, the Ecuadorians probably are used to how the climate presents itself, but this is tourism, meaning people who want comfort. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to ask, maybe you had mentioned it, the building and something, but yeah, I just wanted you to kind of expound on managing the climate with something that has to do with tourism. Yeah.
Thank you. If you can respond to that in 30 seconds.
Okay, so basically, the beauty of vernacular architecture is that it responds really well to its environment. So all the materials that we used created such a beautiful thermal envelope. So in terms of cold, like a lot of these houses, you don't feel cold once you step inside because there's the layers of adobe of straw that provide such great insulation. Even the straw roofs provide such great insulation, and it's really incredible. And then in terms of like tourists, I think part of it is you have to adapt to it because like we try to create as comfortable of the inside as we can, but we also still want to preserve the traditional materials and techniques. So we'll go as far as we can to provide the best comfort. And then it's the rest of it is kind of like adaptation, but it's really not that bad. And these houses really are warm and great, so much better than like concrete houses in this type of climate. So I feel like any tourist would definitely feel comfortable.
Thank you very much. Turns out we've got another
I
10
would
minutes,
agree.
so that's good. Thank you very much for sharing that. Very well explained. Read a couple of things that we've got here in the comments. So nice to see the projects and get a feel for the experience. Hope and Maddie, you make a great team and you're both so passionate. I love the proposed guinea pig house. The finished house is beautiful and moving to see. And yeah, just on that, I'll be sending this presentation to Dina, who we are so close, and we've got another couple of interns here who are going to get so close to the finish line. The furniture is getting designed and will be built in the next few weeks. So thank you very much, both of you, for helping make that happen. Sarah says, great presentation, Madeline and Hope. All the best in your next steps. M. Lane says, impressive presentation. It was rewarding to hear and see the architectural projects you worked on this summer. Congratulations to Hope and Maddie. Hazel says, amazing work. And Deborah, great job to the two of you. So yes, I want to say a massive thank you for all of the hard work. It's amazing what you can get done in just a few weeks when you have sleepless nights and you spend all the time doing that. But you've achieved some really great work, which is going to impact the lives of low-income people who otherwise, first of all, many of these houses would go into disrepair and fall down. And now you're turning it into a resource, which means that they can generate a source of income, which can help to reduce migration. So thank you very much for that legacy that you guys have been living. Thank you, everybody, for joining this call. It's been great having so many people on here and contributing. Always great to see everyone, and also for the interns to feel your support throughout the work and their young professional lives. If you're watching the recording of this and you're interested in finding out more about our internship program, you can go and visit our website, www.elterrenoecuador.com. And any final words to close? Final words from Hope, final words from Madeline, and then we'll end this session.
I just want to say thank you for like the platform. I think like the way that this program is structured is actually really, or for me personally, was very great because it's very much like a what you make of it kind of thing. And I definitely like prefer that approach, especially when it's like we were like, oh, we want to work together, and like you're kind of just like, here are your options, like this is what you can do. Here are all the contacts, like do whatever. I think that that's like a very good approach. I mean, it would be difficult for you to be like super hands-on with everybody here, but I think like for us especially, like the platform was very good for us to like accomplish so much, especially with all of these projects being so close. Like it really made it so we could like not only like integrate into the neighborhood, but also like be very close to our projects and like be able to wake up and like you do your check-in and you walk down to Gina's and you start, and then you come back for lunch and then you do something else. So I think the setup is like very good for like the projects we were working on.
Yeah, I just like Maddie, I really appreciated the format of this internship and being allowed like the flexibility and not just like with the projects we pursued, but in terms of creativity as well. Yeah, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah, thank you so much to everybody for joining the call. Thank you so much to Maddie for such beautiful renderings. So beautiful. I love them. And yeah. hopefully we can continue to do, you know, to like take these skills into what we do in the future.
Great. Congratulations. All the best going forwards. We'll let you know how we get on. Thanks again for everyone for joining us. Until next time.